The intellectual life is not about just, I know this content and that's it, but it's like you're living in this world in which we've been given an ability to know.
Welcome to Classical Etc. You're in the studio with Memoria Press.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Classical Etc. I'm Jessica Aboud, and I am with the core four today, Paul, Martin, and Tanya. Hey, everybody. We've been everywhere. Traveling. Tanya, you just got back from your Texas swing.
I did a tour of Texas. That's right. Texas swing. That's good.
I know. And you had some adventures along the way.
Yes.
With Kathy Becker, our schools director.
Yes, I did, which I think she's blaming me for us running out of gas. And I'm blaming her. So, But poor Jessica Watson was just a victim.
And she's one of our teachers here. She teaches Latin at our brick and mortar school.
She teaches sixth grade.
Sixth grade, okay.
Yes, so she teaches everything.
And she's in some of our videos that we use on the website.
She did our Latin videos.
Yes.
That's what she, yes.
Okay, that's where I've seen her. Okay.
If I ever travel with you all, I'm just going to bring a spare gas can myself.
You should, because we have, I'm surprised you and I have never run out of gas. But we did,
I actually
remember
look
our
at the
van got
gas
stolen
gauge.
that time.
Huh?
Remember our van got stolen that time.
Oh, yeah.
It's great.
We talked about that on one of the shows, I think.
They were convinced that it was that your van had been broken into. Because all their stuff was out of their van, and then they realized that they were trying to break into somebody else's van because it
was the wrong van. It looked exactly like ours.
But we were up in it.
Yeah.
We didn't break in. It wasn't locked, which was
you actually sat in
it.
No,
Yeah.
when I closed the door, I automatically locked it.
And I
so
fussed
whoever
at
had
him.
left it unlocked.
Oh yeah,
And
And
they
we
were
were
gonna come
kind
back
of wondering
and
if they ever got in their own van
because we locked it, thinking it was ours.
Yeah, it was.
You know,
it was not pretty.
Things happen when you're on the road.
Mm-hmm.
It does. You get
Stay
desperate.
home.
That's funny. Well, we are recording this episode in August. School is back in full swing. We've got lesson plans rolling out and rhythms resuming. But for classical educators, it's not just about schedules and systems starting back again. It's a time, this time of year, to renew our vision and our purpose. And that's what we're hoping to do today. Fan the flame that you once had as you step into this new year. I think it's going to be a good discussion. It's a good time of year. It's heavy this time of year, as we're getting back into the swing. But it's good.
Yeah,
it's good for all
everybody's
of us.
excited and renewed.
Yes.
Hopefully.
That's right. And if you're not, hopefully at the end of this episode, you will be with a good shot in the arm. What's everybody reading? Because I don't want to forget that.
I started listening to The Hobbit a couple days ago just for fun.
Are we doing that for book club?
I have no idea.
Either The Hobbit or Anne of Green Gables.
That's what I voted for.
I voted for Anne too because I'm reading The Hobbit already. So I'm like, let's go read something else.
Yeah.
But no, The Hobbit's just delightful. It's
if you like hobbits.
If you like hobbits, but it's been a long time since I read The Hobbit. I've read The Lord of the Rings multiple times, over the past several years, but
The Hobbit's
been a long
definitely
time.
lighter
It is
than
light.
Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
Is it audio for you?
Yes. And the actor, I think it's the actor who played Gollum in The Lord of the Rings.
Oh,
Andy
really?
Serkis.
No, this is another Andy. Maybe not. Okay.
In the movie?
No, the one that reads the book. I thought it was the same guy.
No, I think
it is the same
Andy
guy.
Serkis, yeah.
But it's very, very well done. The amount of voices he can do, and I listened to a couple different versions before I selected that one because it's definitely adds to it.
Nice. Tanya?
I finished The Father's Tale.
Oh.
I hauled that book all over Texas. It is such a heavy book. Like the pages are heavy.
Probably why you ran out of gas.
Beautifully made. It was weighing down. The book was so heavy. But I finished it. And I really liked it. I think it goes a little bit, it's just like a larger than life tale. And you think, could all this really happen to one person?
Mm-hmm.
Seriously. But I've thoroughly enjoyed the book. I'm so glad I read it. And there was no putting it down once I started it. I chose to take it with me because I was so invested in it. Whereas I, chose to leave War and Peace at home once when I was in the middle of it.
You would have run out of gas sooner.
If I'd brought both. So now I didn't have another book with me because I never thought I would finish it on this trip. So I started a book that was just on my Kindle by Anne Cleves, which is one of my favorite British mystery authors. They call it crime fiction over there. And it's one of the early ones before she got famous, but I am thoroughly enjoying it. It's a nice little break. And maybe I'll just stick to those kinds of books until September when work gets a little easier. I don't know. We'll see.
Well, this is not what I'm reading right now, but I'm going to, because Tanya just gave it to me this morning. Louis Markos' new book, From Aristotle to Christ, How Aristotelian Thought Clarified the Christian Faith.
I would like to state that Tanya didn't give you the book.
I'm pretty sure she did.
Tanya came with a bunch of books
from InterVarsity Press
and said, which ones would you all like to read? And Martin just ripped it out of my hand.
He literally did. I watched it.
He was very excited about that book.
She gave, I took, whatever.
Yes.
And
just like that van, we stole it, we didn't. I don't know.
And so I mean, of course, he's done from from Achilles to Christ,
yes,
from Plato to Christ, and now from Aristotle to Christ, and each one of them is telling us, part of the same story, really, of how how Athens and Jerusalem worked things out. I would say. And then, of course, his Passing the Torch is just another excellent book on classical education. So I'm looking forward to that. And then this is something I read every year because I do a class in it. My philosophy of classical education course at memoriacollege.org. And it's called Smiling Through the Cultural Catastrophe by Jeffrey Hart. And, there's a lot of books out there talking about how Athens and Jerusalem, worked in this sort of relationship, but he really drills down on the dialectic nature of that relationship. How it wasn't just that that the Christian thinkers and the Greek thinkers just agreed on a bunch of things. That's not how it worked. They disagreed on things too, and it's how all of that argument, that dialectic, what that produced, and the energy it produced that powers Western civilization. And so it's really the best thing on this I have.
Now, do you read the entire book? Because you only use a little piece of it in your class.
There's the first, just in class, I've read the whole book. The whole book's great. But I think it's the first third. It's called The Great Narrative.
But we can't get that book, right?
Well, it's
Is it out of print?
It's out of print. It's one of the major publishers.
But it's not out of copyright.
But it's not out of copyright. But we do have permission for my class.
Yes.
To use that section.
Yes.
And maybe, that may be something we might want to see if we can make available because it really is the best accounting of this.
Or you can just sign up for Martin's class and you can do access to the first third.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, so that's I have to on a lot of these readings I have to read the whole thing before class just to get my mind. I can't just look at my notes from last time.
Right.
I realize that my notes are not. I don't do notes when I read, so that I don't have to read it the next time.
Mm-hmm. No, you have to reread.
You read and writing it just helps fortify it more in your mind, and then you can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. I was talking recently with some of our teachers about that, and they do have to. They reread the novels before teaching them.
Yeah,
again.
You have to.
Mm-hmm.
You have to.
Well, let's get to a listener question. We've gotten so many in the inbox that I don't want to forget a single one. And this one comes from Autumn. And she says, "Hi there. Why is it recommended to not sync up literature reads with history periods that we're studying? Love the podcast. Thanks for all you do." It's an excellent question. Who wants to take this first stab at it?
I've thought about this a lot because when we first started Memoria Press, Cheryl and I worked through how to do some of this kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I did it also with a school I founded prior to that. And, you have, if you try to fit literature books into historical periods and teach them that way, it's a Procrustean bed, the story of the Greek robber who he would get his victims and he would put them in a bed. And if they were too long, he would cut parts of the body off. And if they were not long enough, he would stretch them to fit. This is one of those things. If you try to do that with literature, you have to cut parts off or you have to stretch it to fit. It doesn't fit. Sorry.
I'm still stuck on that. My brain is
it's vivid. They will remember it.
That's right.
But you need to teach literature as it is appropriate for age, because the age appropriateness and the historical period it fits are never going to fit together. And if you try to put history literature books that are in a particular historical period, they're going to be too old or too young for that age group. Whereas if you use the literature, they're going to get it all. It doesn't have to match everything you're doing that year in the grade. You need a little diversity every year.
Mm-hmm. And then you end up choosing literature books that aren't as great.
Yes,
right?
that's
or
also true.
You go get some real, modern novel written for children because it fits the time period where you could actually be reading something that has stood the test of time.
That is in the children's canon of literature that you don't want students to miss.
Oh, that's really true. And in fact, when I look at the curricula of people who do this, that's exactly what happens, is they'll put something in that fits the time period. It's not a great book.
But they miss Charlotte's Web.
And they miss a good book because of, exactly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Or they take something like what Martin was saying, it's too hard, you got to cut the legs off. Like they take something like Shakespeare and bring it down in elementary school because it fits the time period, like Julius Caesar or one of the historical plays. And so you just it's not that the idea of syncing your literature up to history is not a good idea. It's just when rubber meets the road, like when you practically get to it, you're sacrificing more than what that syncing up brings to you.
Exactly. That's a good way to put it. You're forfeiting more than you're gaining with what you're perceiving.
I like the cutting off body parts example. It's more vivid.
It's clear.
I would also say though that the fact that students actually have to jump in and out of historical time periods probably makes them more adept at history than if they only stew in that time period for an entire year. They don't actually know how that relates to other periods of time.
Mm-hmm. I see the frustration because it would be very nice, if everything could be in a nice little neat box, but it's not. But for somebody like me, when I was homeschooling, it would have been, I would have thought, well, this is so nice that it all ties together. And I loved that Middle Ages year, which just by accident, we read King Arthur. All of our literature is medieval in the year we're studying the Middle Ages. It happens one time, 1 year, and it is a beautiful year. But you would miss so much because there aren't great children's classics about ancient Rome or ancient Greece that would be on the same age level.
And didn't we do an episode about why we don't necessarily teach history chronologically?
We did.
Maybe we can link to that because we had a whole discussion fairly recently about why we don't always follow like a linear pattern for some of these things. And yet it doesn't forfeit the students over the big picture. They get everything they need over the course of time.
Yeah, because all you need is sort of a map, and we have that in our history cards.
Our timeline.
Timeline card, which they put on the wall so that they need to develop in their mind a picture of history and the relationships between it. And I think that timeline thing that we have does that really, really well. I wish that we had that when we were homeschoolers. But once you have that, you can go anywhere on that map you want to. You will know where you are.
That's right. You can put yourself in that at that point.
Absolutely.
That's right. Yeah. Got it. Well, that's helpful. Autumn, we hope that helped. And if anyone else has a question, remember that you can always reach us at podcast@memoriapress.com. We would love to hear episode ideas, questions like Autumn's, anything you've got. We'd love to see it. On to today's discussion. I know what you're thinking, a back to school episode, groan, but stick with us because this isn't going to be just about logistics and how to work a new planner for the academic year. We want to talk about renewing the vision for why we do this work in the first place. And the first question I have for you, and this is for everybody, is as we enter the fall season, we get back to rhythms, And I want to hear from you. Why does the start of the school year stir something in us that's bigger than just schedules and syllabi? What do you think that is?
It's like a renewal.
Yeah.
It's like I get another chance. You've had a break.
Yeah.
Kids have had a break. And hopefully, you've spent that time
wisely
and you're ready to go. And just like kids,
Yeah.
I think most kids are ready to go back to school. I had one that never was. But I do think, I was always ready, especially, when I got to high school and college. I just wanted to be there and have all the new school supplies and the new books that smelled so good. It's just an exciting time, I think. For me, it was. I don't know about you guys.
I mean, from my perspective now, actually the seasonality is very important. And I think if you look at the school year, and if it does in fact have its roots agriculturally, it actually speaks to going into a different kind of work where like what you're doing and kids today, there's so much activity during the summer and all of a sudden like it starts getting a little cooler. That's why I hate these schools that start at the beginning of August. I'm like, wait till it gets a tad cooler. And then students go, okay, it's like a natural human like signal of, okay, now it's time to start going inside. What are we going to do inside? We're going to work on our intellectual and other aspects of ourselves where we've been really pushing ourselves maybe physically outside all summer long. Now we're going to go in and work in this other aspect, which is exciting, right? Like we always have energy at the beginning of something. At the end of something, we never have the energy for it, right?
Right.
And that's why it's really exciting starting the school year. And I think this is, we're not just filling their heads with information, right? Like the whole goal of what we're doing is teaching them how to be human and what makes them uniquely human, which is their wisdom and their virtue, right? Their ability to think and their ability to act well. And that's something that I think a comprehensive education gives you.
I think that the whole seasonal thing is important, and it's something we've kind of gotten away from. But it was seasonal for a reason. Like school was out in the summer for a reason, and because of we had more of an agrarian culture in America than we do now. Now it's not really relevant. But it used to be. I remember when I was in school and tobacco was huge. I went to school in East Tennessee, and we, kids were excused from school to help
on
in
the family
field. Yeah, so that is the history of us, is that seasonal education,
and that goes all the way back. I think that the fact that we were all farmers, at some point in time,
self-sustaining,
and that we those rhythms of nature, I think, are built into us. And I don't think we can just leave them and have technology take over, and that we don't need to pay attention to that rhythmic aspect of life. Paul was talking about going to school in early August. When I was growing up in Southern California, we went back, I think, the first weekend in September.
Right.
And
I think everybody did.
I think everybody did. And, schools have tried to replace this system, that long summer break with
year round.
I'm sorry.
More frequent week-long breaks.
That destroys the whole rhythmic aspect. And I remember, after spending a whole summer at the beach, because I grew up in Redondo Beach in South Bay, Los Angeles. And we look forward to the summer, and we enjoyed the summer. And then when we got back to school, it was like exciting because you had that long break. And you were looking at it as a new thing. I mean, I remember looking at it as in an excited way, and I was excited about learning some of the things that we were going to learn. Didn't always learn them great later on when it came right down to it, but it was something that you could look forward to, and just these little breaks.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Well, you have the right to be wrong.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I think a lot of people have moved toward year-round schooling, and at first I also thought, I just don't know. I mean, it was change. It was big change. But now that I've talked to a lot of people who are doing year-round schooling, they are taking, they're taking like month-long breaks. And the advantage to it is that they don't lose their math skills. They don't lose their Latin vocabulary. They don't lose that stuff
You can lose it in a week.
But it's not as much as a 3-month break, which, I mean, we're not year-round schooling. We're doing your traditional, our kids are getting a long summer break with assignments in the summer to keep that stuff fresh as well as we can. But, I mean, there's going to be I think there are disadvantages to both. But I do think that the people who are schooling year-round have found their own rhythm, and they are able to take vacations because they have 4 to 5 weeks. They may end up with more time off than we get.
But I'm saying you need a real rest. Okay?
Well, a month isn't enough.
Do you think that if you said, look, I'm not just going to sleep one time a day. I'm going to take 3 or 4 long naps, and that will do me just as well. It wouldn't work. Okay, because you need a real rest. And I think the mind is the same way. You need an extended period of time to do some other things, and then you get back into it. And we have never suffered. This is not the reason we went to this new form. That somehow the other form wasn't working academically. That is not the reason anybody used, really, I don't think at the time.
Well, why did schools start doing year-round schooling?
Because I have heard various excuses for this. None of them very good.
I will admit that I also used to think like you, but I have really talked to people that have been very successfully doing this, and a lot of homeschoolers do it. Well, and they get to then have vacations throughout the year, and they have a rest break, and I think that's
because you have to make a virtue of necessity. I mean, if you're required to do something, you make it work, and you find ways to. Well,
they're not required,
but that doesn't mean it's the best thing to do.
They're totally free. I'm just going to disagree with you. I think I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I think that there's nothing wrong with the way we do it either.
You can pry my summer break from my cold, dead hands.
I feel like the goddess of discord sitting over here. And I just kind of tossed this out, and I didn't realize what was going to happen.
No, I think this is a good question.
I think you're old and set in your ways, and you need to be more open-minded.
The ways are better than the other ways.
I will just say that having made a shift from a world in which seasons did not matter to me to live in a lifestyle where seasons very much matter to me, I have actually, I think, found that seasonality is important.
But you can have seasonality and homeschool.
Sure, you can. Yeah.
Year round.
Right. You can take what I'm saying, and Martin can use it as a side for his point, and you can use it as a side for your point. That's or point for your side. I'm just saying that I think that seasonality is important, and I think with any break, you see that the first whatever the first quarter is of that break, you're just coming down off of your, you're slowly ramping down.
You're just now in a restful, and then you got to go back again.
And it's not even just go back, but then you start thinking, then you have a period of like, okay, now I don't have to think about anything. And then you have a period of now I have to start preparing myself to go back. Mm-hmm. And then you have a period of now I'm actually doing prep work to go back. Mm-hmm. And so the trajectory is not just we're going, we stop, and then we start again. It's we're going, we slowly ramp down, and then we slowly start ramping up, and then up and up and up. And so the longer that break is, the more of that middle rest period you actually get.
I agree.
Well, But if you don't have near as much prep, if you're only taking 3 weeks off, you don't have the prep because you're going right back into it. It's like our spring break.
In other words, because you never get a rest.
That's
why. You still have it in your mind. You never got it out of you. Never fully relaxed, cleared your mind because you can't, because you got to be prepared when you're going to go back in 3 weeks.
Well, no matter how long we've been on our breaks, we're returning. It's August. And you're right. There is that initial motivation and the adrenaline and the excitement that gets you going. But what would you say to a teacher or a homeschool parent who's also a teacher in, September, October, when starting to get tired and you're wondering, oh man, can I keep this up? Or I'm just kind of fading here. What would you tell that person? Because it happens to me kind of fast.
Right. I don't know. I really think probably the worst season is January, February for the people that we talk to. I really think people get through the fall pretty well. And I think it's because, there are those breaks. You're headed to Thanksgiving, you're headed to Christmas.
Yeah. Yeah, even if you don't have a what people call a fall break that happens like in September if they start early. Our school starting the end of August, there is no break between that and Thanksgiving.
Right.
But because they have so much of that initial energy, you get to the beginning of November, you're like, okay, it's about time for a break, but you've got one in about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's a good
point. I
point.
do think fall is easier. And the leaves are changing and there's just a new feel to the air. And so I don't think people lose it that early, but I do think they lose it. And I think it gets really difficult. I don't know that they lose their vision so much as just their enthusiasm for all the work, because it is work. It's hard work.
Yeah.
And so the breaks are important, but I think to keep your vision up, it's important that you have people around you who are doing the same thing, because it's isolating, especially if you're homeschooling. But even in a classroom, you are isolated, just you, one adult, and your students. And so you need to find time when everybody can be together and can fellowship together, and just a recognition that we're all doing this and it's all worth doing. We generate some of that excitement during our conference, but then people go back home and they're by themselves.
Yeah.
But with technology now, social media, I see on Facebook, they're still connected. On our forum, they're still connected. And that's really important. A book group where they're reading maybe a good book about classical education, or even just a nice piece of literature, something for themselves. All of that stuff would help. Or just an article from the classical teacher.
That's true. Yeah. Yes. And we have a new magazine out. Well,
not to bring us back into breaks, but leverage your weekends. I think that's actually taking moments, even if it's just a day where you're like, I'm off. Then you actually go back into it with a little bit more of renewed enthusiasm, even if it's just a tiny bit more than if every day you're like, I've got to crank this out.
I've found that's for practical. Myself, just in my job. If I really try to totally take Saturday off. But by Sunday afternoon, it's on my mind again, and it's, I'm ramping back up, but I have found that I do better and come with more enthusiasm. So of course the same thing's going to work we're talking mainly about teachers now. For students, they do get the weekend off.
That's right.
They're not thinking ahead. They're not thinking about it. They're not stressed.
I'd be curious to know what rhythms do we have, even at our schools, for keeping the teachers encouraged and with that, the flame.
We have collaboration meetings with kindergarten through 6th grade teachers, but our school's so large. We have 4 of every grade. And so that is a nice little group where they can talk about what's working, what's not, how they're feeling, how their students are doing, get help from each other. And we do that every 6 weeks. So that is a help. And then in the upper school, they have little subject meetings.
Yeah, but I would also say in the upper school, because everybody's schedule is different, right?
It's harder.
It's harder, but you also frequently have a period that you're not teaching,
Oh, where
that
you're
you're
with
prepping,
each other.
and you're all sitting at desks near each other, and conversations often break out. So I don't necessarily think it's as big of a deal in the upper school, because you actually have
Some free time.
where it's like the lower schools, those teachers' free time is you've got an art period and there's nobody else whose students are in art period. So there's nobody else to talk to.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas upper school, there's always 2 or 3 people that are
Free to have
at
a
a given time.
conversation.
Yeah, and this is more true at our other campus when we were down at the church. But I always say that you can find out more if you're visiting a school. You can find out more about the quality of the school by going into the teacher's break room and see what they're talking about. And if they're talking about their pension plans or their
The football game.
Yeah. Then, but if they're talking about books, which is what our teachers tend to do,
They also talk about football.
they do a little bit. But I mean, there are serious discussions about what they teach going on in there, and they're not really taking a break. But they are, because that's what they like to do. So,
Well, because and what it allows them to do is when a student asks a question that kind of like lights something in the teacher's mind, and they're like, I want to think about that. This gives them then they walk out and they go talk to the other teachers about it, right? Which gives them some way of letting, like, where what's happening in the classroom is not just them giving information, but they're also pulling ideas out of the conversation, and they're like, now I need to stew on that. And that's part of the intellectual life, right? The intellectual life is not about just, I know this content and that's it, but it's like you're living in this world in which, we've been given an ability to know. And as you find something out, you want to know how that connects with another thing. And you just have this thirst and this appetite that's innate in us, but it has to be fostered.
Right.
And those conversations in the break room actually help.
Yeah, I think so. And then also, we have a group that meets not frequently enough, the Drones Club, we call it, and some of the teachers, come down and we usually pick some reading, and I was trying to do this for the next meeting the other day, and I'm looking at one of the just an essay, and I'm thinking that's too close to what we do at school. I want something that's kind of a little bit apart from what we do, get a little away from it, get a little perspective. You can come back to that, and we just talk about it and have a great time.
Well, and the last conversation actually was sparked by a conversation that was had in Kyle's class about which David, Donatello's, Bernini's, or Michelangelo's was better.
Oh.
And so we sat down and talked about, I don't know, it was 2-3 hours.
I'm thinking, I saw Kyle propose that. It's just these 3 pictures. I just had them laying there on my outdoor fireplace hearth. And I'm thinking, there's no way we're going to be able to talk about this for that long. We talked about it literally for 2 or 3 hours.
And we could have kept going.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun.
And it was just fun. It's letting your hair down. It's not, you don't have an assignment, but everybody's intensely focused on this topic and what so-and-so just said, or what so-and-so just said. And it's tremendous fun.
And that exactly proves your point about community.
Oh, yes. Well,
that's what that is, right?
Yeah, that's what it is.
Book groups, and that's an important. Book groups are the same kind of thing where you're in communion with people.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be something formal that the school says we're doing this. Like this thing Martin's talking about, this group. I mean, this is completely just some of us that got together and we just we have a great time. We invite other people, and so. It could be something school sponsored. Generally, you don't let your hair down as much in
if
those.
it's school sponsored,
it's not an official proceeding.
Right.
But so if a listener, if you're just a teacher and you're like, hey, I got 3 or 4 other teachers that would like to get together and we do this, once a month or whatever, it'd probably be a great shot in the arm just for you guys.
No, I really think this is important, and it's in a way, even though it's happening during the school year and the regular schedule, it is a break. Sure. It's in its own way, and it allows you to kind of step back from what you're doing and talk about what you're doing and what the school is doing from a
And
completely
why
different
you're
perspective,
doing
and
it.
why you're doing it, and it fosters enthusiasm. It's you after those discussions, it's like you just feel like this catharsis has taken place, and you go and do your job again, but you're going to meet again, in another month, and it's just a part of enjoying your job. You need to enjoy your job.
And almost like along the marathon, it's just a little sip of Gatorade.
Yeah, that's
You
right.
know?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and my sister homeschools. I know she's got does like a mom's book club.
Yeah.
And just
And Carrie
prioritizing
does
those things.
one online.
That's right. For homeschoolers.
For homeschoolers.
And
It gives you your community.
yes, and you should take that not as another thing I have to do,
No.
but it should be something that feeds you.
When my kids were little and I was homeschooling, that my once a month book club, there was like nothing was going to stand in the way of that. Just everybody back up. I am out of here.
Yeah.
Oh, and I'm sure we can all, that's so helpful to protect the time that's enriching to you.
Yep.
And gives you, that little hit of Gatorade to go back and keep running the race.
Okay, yes, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, just sort of as an addendum to that observation, is in your own individual life as a teacher and educator, you need to read stuff that has nothing to do with what you're doing, just for pure enjoyment, and it just another way of resting yourself.
But it's also an opportunity where you're sitting around a table having dinner before you talk about the book, and you're talking about your school day, and you see that all these other people have had the same kind of days that you are having. And so it does make it feel less isolating to know, I'm not the only one that's ready to throw my children out the window at the end of the day.
Well, and I think it's not just reading for pure enjoyment. That has nothing to do with what you're teaching, but also reading that continuously keeps in front of you the enjoyment of learning something new, right?
Yes.
Because if you're a teacher and you're teaching the same thing multiple years in a row,
it can get really boring.
Gets really boring really quickly. And then you can kind of get stuck in this intellectual rut of like, ugh, we're doing this again, as opposed to if you're continuously outside of class having those moments of like, wow, that's really fascinating to know, it's easier for you to keep in front of your mind when you're teaching students something that you know really well. It might be boring to you, but it's new to them, that they're going to be having those same sort of light bulb moments.
True.
So read other things, not just for like enjoyment as an entertainment,
right?
But like enjoyment that helps you experience what your students are experiencing, because that then keeps you excited for them.
Yeah.
Well said. Well, thanks everyone. That got really practical. I hope that was helpful there at the end, and even towards the beginning with our talk about the seasonality of life. So that was good. Hopefully it encouraged all of you who are starting back to school, not only now, but even in the winter months when things start to get a little long. Thank you guys for your input. Always glad to have you. And thank you for joining us. We'll be back next time. Thanks for joining us today on Classical Etc. by Memoria Press. If you like what you heard, please like, subscribe, or share this episode or comment. We love to hear your questions and your comments. If you want to learn more about Memoria Press, please go to memoriapress.com. This has been Classical Etc. We're so glad you joined us, and we'll see you next time.